I gave my mom a Mother's Day gift but found it in a trash bag. I was stunned. "You didn't like it?" I asked, shaking. She shrugged. "Not my style." So, the next morning I did this. Now she won't stop calling me. I found the gift I gave my mom inside a trash bag. So I did this the next morning. She was calling me nonstop. For Mother's Day brunch, I brought flowers, her favorite perfume, and a letter I spent hours writing. But then I saw everything. I gave her stuffed in a trash bag near the garage. So, I left early and did this. The next morning, she was calling me nonstop. This year, I thought maybe, just maybe, things would be different. Not perfect, not even great, but a little lighter. I don't know why. Maybe because I'd been so busy with work I didn't have time to overthink. Or maybe because I recently helped with her taxes, and she actually thanked me, and it didn't feel forced. Or because when I texted to confirm the brunch last week, she replied with a smiley face. Not an emoji, but a colon and a parenthesis. The old school way she used to text me in middle school before everything changed. So, yeah, I let myself hope. I bought her favorite perfume, the one she wore when I was a kid, and still called me sweetie in front of others. I got fresh flowers from a local shop, not the supermarket, and spent hours, real hours, writing a handwritten letter, not some generic, thanks for everything card. I wrote that I knew things hadn't always been easy, that I recognized what she sacrificed for me, that I still loved her, even if I didn't always feel like she wanted me around. It wasn't desperate, just honest. I told myself that brunch could be a fresh start, a way to get closer again. She had me when she was barely out of high school. It was just the two of us for a long time. Chaotic, but close. Then, when I was 10, she met Jake, her husband now. At first, he was nice, quiet, practical. I thought maybe I was gaining someone. I didn't realize I was about to start fading away. Then the baby came, my half-brother Isaac. Suddenly, I went from being her son to a reminder of her past. And Jake? Jake wanted a fresh start, a perfect family. You could feel it in the way he always said, "Our boy," but never spoke about me like that unless someone asked directly. Even so, I held on to hope. Sometimes you want to be loved so badly, it drowns out all the reasons you should know it won't work. So, when I pulled up to their house that morning with gifts in hand, I felt good. Nervous. Sure. But also proud. Like I was showing up as a grown adult, someone worth having around. The house looked nice. She always goes all out for events. Mimosas, cloth napkins, place cards, that Pinterest vibe. When I walked in, she looked up from the table. "Oh, you came?" she said. For half a second, I thought she was genuinely happy, that maybe this was it. Maybe I'd finally done something right. I handed her the flowers, the perfume. She looked at the bottle like it was a receipt she didn't remember approving. "Oh, you remembered this one," she said. It wasn't warm, just a statement. I didn't let it shake me. "Yeah," I smiled. "They only had one." She nodded, already turning back to the table. My half-brother Isaac was talking about dorm life at college, how his economics professor sounded like someone who'd never paid rent. Everyone laughed. I sat down. There was a folded napkin at my place, but no place card. No one had saved me a mimosa. Fine. I poured myself some juice like a responsible adult. Jake asked how work was, but turned away before I finished answering. My mom adjusted the centerpiece. Isaac passed me the salt without looking. None of this was new, but that day, for some reason, it weighed heavier. Maybe because I'd really tried this time. Maybe because of the letter still in my coat pocket. I kept thinking about when to give it to her. I'd put it in a red envelope, even used my good pen. "Anyone want more coffee?" I offered. My mom didn't hear me, or pretended not to. Halfway through brunch, my brother looked at me with a smirk. "So, what, you celebrate Mother's Day from a distance now? Or is this your charity visit?" Jake laughed. My mom didn't say anything, just sipped her drink. I smiled like it didn't bother me and said, "Well, I didn't bring a coupon, but I brought a gift." My brother grinned. "Nice. Did you Venmo it like last year?" I didn't bite. "This year's handwritten." I stood up, pulled the letter from my pocket, and placed it by her plate. The red envelope stood out like blood on the white tablecloth. She blinked, like I'd just handed her a court summons. Then my brother snickered. "What, you write her a love letter or something?" "Jesus," I said, still smiling. "Just a thank you." The table went quiet for a second. Then someone asked for the butter. After brunch, I helped clear the dishes. I was heading to the kitchen with a stack when I noticed the trash bags had already been taken to the garage. We'd barely finished eating. Maybe she was just being efficient. She liked things tidy. I went out to toss some napkins. The garage door was half open, sunlight spilling in enough to show the trash cans stacked in the back. And there, leaning against a black trash bag, I saw the perfume, still in its box. The flowers, crushed to the side, like they'd been shoved in carelessly. And the envelope, my envelope, still sealed, red against the black plastic. My entire offering, discarded. I stood there, staring. At first I didn't feel angry. I felt heat creeping up my neck, settling behind my eyes. Not enough to cry, just enough to blur the edges of the world. I looked around. No one was watching. No TV crew popping out to say it was a mistake or a prank or that she meant to take it back. Just silence and trash. I bent down, reached out, and took it all back. The perfume, the flowers, the letter. I held them for a second, standing in that half-lit garage, not even sure what I was doing. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was pride. Maybe I couldn't stand the thought of my love rotting under coffee grounds and eggshells. I walked back to my car with the bag in hand, like it was evidence of a crime. I sat there for a minute, engine off, letter on the passenger seat. What a stupid thing to write, I thought. Thank you for the years you gave me. I know it wasn't easy, but you did your best. I'm proud of the woman you've become. I stared at the envelope, then drove home. I didn't say goodbye, didn't text, didn't tell them what I saw, didn't slam the door. I just left, quietly. That night, I set the letter on the kitchen counter, right next to the perfume and the flowers, which were already starting to wilt. I stood there, staring at them, like they could explain something. Why did I still try? Why did I still care? Why didn't I see this coming? I didn't sleep much, but I made a decision before the sun came up. The next morning, she was calling me non-stop. I used to think things changed slowly, like erosion, that you didn't notice until one day the shore was just gone. But looking back, I think it happened faster than I let myself admit. She met Jake when I was 10. He came over for dinner a few times. Then, suddenly, he was there every night. One random morning, I woke up, and his car was in the driveway, his shoes in the hall. My mom wore more makeup than usual. She smiled at him in a way she hadn't smiled at me in years. I remember thinking, oh. The baby came soon after. I was still 10. I did the math later, but I don't think she expected me to back then. She and Jake had a whole new family in the blink of an eye. New routines, new rules. A nursery where the home office used to be. A second fridge in the garage stocked with formula and organic baby food. A chore chart that somehow didn't have my name. They were busy, obviously. Newborns are a lot. So, I told myself it made sense when they forgot to ask about my spelling test, or didn't show up to my school concert, or left me waiting in the rain after karate practice. They were just tired. It was a phase. I waited years for that phase to end. It didn't. The baby grew up. They adored him. He started walking, and they cheered. He said, "Dada," and they cried. I brought home a school award, and my mom said, "That's great. Can you watch your brother while I nap?" It wasn't that she stopped loving me overnight. It was more like she started loving someone else louder. And over time, that silence became unbearable. By the time I went to college, the house didn't feel like mine anymore. Every wall had pictures of him, smiling in parks, matching Christmas pajamas, Isaac on Santa's lap. I wasn't in any of them. Not even a photo from my high school graduation, just erased. But I kept trying. That's the part that still embarrasses me. I kept showing up for holidays, kept buying birthday gifts, helped with bills when I knew money was tight. Even after finding out they went on a family trip and just forgot to tell me, I helped Jake get his job. I used my contacts to recommend him for a role dealing with clients, one he wasn't really qualified for. He nailed the interview. Charisma goes a long way when no one checks the facts. They never told anyone I helped. Fine. I told myself I wasn't doing it for credit. I was doing it to stay connected, to feel like I still belonged. Even after I got my own place and a decent job, I still visited, still called, still texted my mom on random Wednesdays just to say, "Hope your day's going well." Sometimes she replied. Sometimes she left me on red for days. But when she did reply, it was like oxygen. Once, after I helped sort out some insurance paperwork, she wrote, "You always show up when I need you. Thanks." I reread that text for weeks. I'm not proud of it, but if you've ever felt invisible to someone who used to be your whole world, you get it. That's why this brunch hurt so much. I'd let myself believe we might have turned a corner. She sent a smiley face when she confirmed the brunch. She thanked me after I helped with her taxes. She didn't ask for money that month. I thought maybe things were settling, that she was softening. And for a second that morning, standing on her porch with flowers, a letter, and the perfume she wore when I was a kid, I felt like her son again. But then she laughed at my brother's joke about me being half family. She didn't say anything when Jake cut me off mid-sentence to talk about the stock market. She barely glanced at the envelope when I handed it to her, the one I'd stayed up writing, the one where I said I loved her even when it hurt, even when it felt like I was the only one trying. And then she threw it in the trash. I keep seeing it. The trash bag by the garage, the red envelope crumpled, the perfume box unopened, the flowers half crushed under other garbage. I took it all back, not to give again, not to prove a point, just because I couldn't bear to leave it there. Those things weren't just gifts. They were pieces of me. And if she didn't want them, I was done offering. My mom texted me that night. "You left in a weird mood. Hope it's not something we did." It almost made me laugh, but I didn't because there was nothing funny about it. Not the years I spent shrinking to make room for her preferred version of life. Not the 1,000 small kindnesses I gave without getting anything back. Not the memory of her tucking me in at 7 and saying, "You're my whole world," only for me to grow up and find that world had borders I could never cross again. They didn't kick me out. They just made sure I always felt like a guest in someone else's family. So, yeah, I didn't call back. For the first time, I wasn't trying to be let in. I was trying to remember what it felt like to belong to myself. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of anger or heartbreak, but something worse. Clarity. The cold kind of clarity that comes when you stop hoping. Like standing in a house you thought you'd live in forever and realizing all the walls are hollow. Around 2 a.m., I went to the kitchen and lined up the 3 gifts on the counter. The perfume, the flowers, the letter. They looked smaller now, sadder, like relics of a version of me I didn't recognize anymore. I stared at the envelope, creased from the trash bag, still sealed. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I knew exactly what it said. I opened my laptop. First, the utility bills. I logged into the accounts I'd been quietly paying. Gas, water, electric, and scheduled the final payments for the month. Then I removed my name from all of them and canceled the auto debits. Next, the tuition. I'd offered to help cover Isaac's next semester. The transfer was set for the 15th. I canceled it. The confirmation email made it real. Then I opened a new email and addressed it to my mom. Subject, Mother's Day. Just FYI, I put an envelope with cash inside the letter I gave you. It was to help with Isaac's tuition. Thought you'd know what to do with it. Hope it didn't get lost. I hit send. I closed the laptop, made tea I didn't drink, and sat in silence. Letting her deal with it felt better than yelling. And sure enough, by 8:12 a.m., the text started. "What do you mean, cash?" I didn't see any envelope. "Are you serious? My God, how much was in there? I'm looking for it now." Then the calls, one after another. I watched the screen light up and go dark. Voicemail after voicemail, piling up like little panic attacks. I didn't answer. I let her spiral. I let her retrace her steps. I let her imagine how much money she'd thrown away, literally and figuratively. Not just a gift, not just cash. Something that could have saved what was left of us, and now it was gone. By noon, Jake finally texted. "You're being childish. Is this serious? Just tell us if you're lying." I almost replied, "Ask the garbage truck." Instead, I put my phone on silent and kept going. One last step. I opened my contacts and found 3 people I'd personally introduced Jake to. People he now worked with, clients, vendors, a friend who got him an extra contract. I sent each a similar message. "Hey, just a heads up. Going forward, please don't associate my name with Jake. Nothing dramatic, just a personal boundary. Hope you understand. No gossip, no details. Just enough to make people sense something was off. Just enough to loosen a few knots." I knew how that world worked. Jake's entire job relied on being seen as a trustworthy guy with good connections. If I stepped back quietly, others would follow. By the end of the week, he'd lost a long-term contract. Another was put on hold. A client asked to work with someone else. I didn't even have to try. One email, a little distance, and the gears started falling apart on their own. That night, my phone buzzed again. "Did you find it? Please respond. I need to know. I think I saw the bag you mentioned, but there's nothing there now. Please just tell me if this is real." I stared at her name on the screen for a second. I pictured picking up, saying something cold, sharp, final, but that would have given her closure. So, I did nothing. It wasn't revenge. It was about letting them feel the weight I'd carried since I was 10. When I stopped being her whole world and became an inconvenience she couldn't wait to move past. It was about them squirming in the silence and finally hearing what I'd been trying to say for years. You can't keep erasing someone and expect them to stay loyal. I know I lied. I know the cash envelope never existed. But the pain, the withdrawal, the abandonment, that was real. And for the first time, they couldn't ignore it. My mom left a voicemail that night. Her voice was shaky, not quite crying, but you could hear the desperation leaking through the fake calm. "Please call me. Please." I didn't know. I wouldn't have done it if I knew what was in there. "Just call me, okay? I'm sorry." She didn't say "I love you." She didn't say "I'm sorry" like she meant it. Just panic. Like someone realizing they lost something valuable and couldn't remember where they left it. I didn't respond. The next morning, my aunt texted me. Apparently my mom called her, crying, saying I was being cruel, distant, difficult. My aunt's message was one line. If I were you, I wouldn't answer either. That made me smile. Really smile. Because for the first time, someone saw it. Saw how much I'd given. How little I'd gotten back. How quietly I'd endured being treated like nothing until it became unbearable. That weekend, I put the gifts in a box and stored it in my closet. Not because I wanted to keep them, but because I wasn't ready to throw them out. They weren't reminders of her anymore. They were reminders of me, of the version of me that kept trying. And now I was done trying. It's over. On Monday, she stopped asking if I was okay and started demanding answers. Her text went from, "I'm sorry you're upset," to, "You need to stop this now." Jake sent a stiff email, so formal, like we were negotiating a contract instead of unraveling a decade of buried resentment. He said my decision to pull back was hurting his job and hoped I'd reconsider for the sake of family stability. Translation: Your silence is costing me money. I didn't reply. Then Isaac chimed in with a voice message that started with, "Look, I know things were never perfect," and ended with, "But seriously? You're ruining Mom's life over what? A trash bag?" That almost made me laugh. A trash bag? Yeah, that was the whole problem, wasn't it? They'd spent years treating me like clutter, something to box up and shove in the attic so it wouldn't mess up the decor. Now I was gone, and suddenly they couldn't function. And still, I didn't respond. I didn't gloat. I didn't vent on social media. I didn't send a final list of everything they did wrong. I just stopped playing the role. And it drove them crazy. By the end of the week, my mom showed up at my job unannounced. No call. Nothing. Just walked in, looking like she was on a mission. The receptionist called me like there was a fire. I went downstairs and found her in the lobby. Cream blazer, heels clicking on the floor like periods. She didn't smile. Can we talk? She asked, already walking outside. We went to the sidewalk. She didn't ask how I was, didn't apologize, just went straight for it. You've humiliated this family, she snapped. You embarrassed your brother. Jake's job is on the line. Do you understand what that means? I understand. Perfectly, I said, calm. She stared at me, eyes hard. You're doing this for revenge over a little party. I tilted my head. Is that what you think? She crossed her arms. We raised you. Paid for your clothes, your food, your school. Oh, I said slowly. And I paid the down payment on your house. Covered the electric bill for 2 years. Offered to help with Isaac's tuition. But sure, let's talk about the sneakers. You got me in 5th grade. That broke something in her. Her jaw clenched. That was your choice. We never asked for your help. No, I said. You didn't ask. You just expected. Expected me to cover what Jake forgot to pay. Expected me to be fine when you skipped my birthday because Isaac had a test. Expected me to stay quiet while you smiled when he called me half family, like I was an accident. She opened her mouth, but I kept going. Expected me to keep giving, even after you threw away the one thing I had left to offer. That hit hard. She blinked. Something crossed her face. Maybe guilt, maybe just discomfort. Then she tried one last card. You're not just punishing Jake, she hissed. You're punishing this family. Then maybe this family, I said, should stop treating me like a stranger who's only good for writing checks. And I walked back inside. I didn't look back. 2 days later, Isaac posted a vague, dramatic story about people abandoning family when things get tough. Some mutuals liked it. A cousin DM'd me. Is he talking about you? I replied, probably. And if he is, good. I heard it was the beginning of the end for Jake. He started losing clients. People reconsidered partnerships. A vendor I'd introduced asked to work with someone else. They asked him to resign a month later. They called it restructuring. Everyone knew it wasn't. Isaac's tuition didn't get paid. He had to defer enrollment. I never said a word. Not because I wanted to be cruel, but because silence was the one language they'd never learned to hear. A few weeks after the scene at my job, I got a group call from my mom, Jake, and Isaac. I didn't answer. They left a voicemail. We just want to talk, she said, her tone syrupy and cautious, like someone trying to reset a chessboard after flipping it over. Isaac mumbled, Sorry, I guess. Jake didn't say anything. Then my mom added, You've made your point. Now tell us what's going on. I listened to the message twice, noting what was said and what wasn't. No one said I'm sorry like they meant it. No one said we didn't treat you right. They just wanted me back in my place, back in the role. But I was done with that role, so I didn't respond. I blocked their numbers. 3 months later, I got promoted, moved to a better apartment, started hanging out with friends who actually cared what I had to say. Then, one night, I got another text from my mom. Saw you moved. Hope you're doing okay. If you want to talk, I'm here. She didn't mention what she did or didn't do. Didn't ask how I was. Just wanted to see if the door was still open. It wasn't. I made tea, sat on my balcony, and watched the city lights. No noise, no guilt, no performance, just silence. And in that silence, for the first time in years, I finally felt free. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far. If I should have just let it go. Smiled through the pain. Picked a softer moment to set boundaries. Chosen peace over silence. But then, I remember the garage. I remember standing there holding my gifts, still unopened, still damp from the trash bag. I remember the letter I wrote with shaking hands, trying to be vulnerable with someone who didn't think twice about throwing it away. And I realized I didn't burn the bridge. I just stopped carrying the weight of a bridge they tore down years ago. I don't take pride in lying about the money, but I'm not ashamed either. For the first time, they had to face uncertainty, discomfort, the possibility that what they threw away might have been worth more than they thought. And that was enough.